Welcome back, students, to the next session of English literature. Today onwards, we start with Merchant of Venice. Now, before we start Merchant of Venice, let me just make you aware what are plays or what are dramas and how it came into existence. Initially, we go back to the Greek and Roman civilization. It is said that this civilization gave the world a lot of good points. Example, you had laws, you have some philosophies which have been picked up from the Greek and Roman civilization. Now, when we talk about the origin of drama or plays were enacted during the Roman civilization in a stadium kind of a platform, and it was performed during special occasions. Generally, it had some kind of moral values in it. They made people aware of the Gothic principles, that is supernatural elements, how evil if it's conducted, how evil becomes the form for a complete end. Now, during this time, the earliest playwrights in Western literature, they had their surviving works, and we still have few of them during the time from the ancient Greek. And these early plays were generally held for the special occasions or for Athenian competitions among playwrights, which was held during the 5th century BC. Playwrights such as Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, Aristophanes established forms still relied on their modern counterpart. With time, as the development progressed and as the scenario changed, the Italian Renaissance brought about the stricter unities, that is the unity of time, place, action, the plot construction. There are certain elements which are being used in writing the plays. As we'll progress, you'll get used to, you'll be able to understand this. Now, that has been a part of the play or drama. And when the actors, because during the time when the event was held, the actors were busy during that time, but the other time they were doing sundry jobs. So with time, they started taking the cycles. On the cycle, they would drive the cycle and visit from one village to other, performing the plays. These kind of plays were also called as cycle plays, and because they had themes, a particular value, or it concerned about the moral humanities, so it was also known as moral plays or morality plays. As the time went forward, it was during the Christmas time or during the Easter time when these plays used to be performed. But then this became the part of the ritual, and on weekends, because people did not have any form of other entertainment, theatre became a kind of engagement and a fancy for the royalties and for the royal people. Now, before we start, let me just put a little highlight on life of William Shakespeare. He was born in Stratford-on-Avon in the country of Warwick. His father was a very prosperous businessman, so he was enrolled in one of the best schools, and he got good education from a good grammar school. Unfortunately, his father's business failed, so he couldn't continue his study and he could not attend the university. At the age of 18, he got married to Anna Hathaway, one of their family friend's daughter. Now, we don't know exact the date when he landed up in London, but it is said that by the time of 1592, he was already in London, and he had joined a theatre company called Lord Chamberlain's Men, which was refounded in 1594 and developed into London's leading company. Now, this group later got the name of King's Men. In 1599, this group occupied the Globe Theatre. Globe Theatre in today's world it's a monument which is of historic importance, and most of the tourists, they go and visit this monument. Shakespearean plays performed here showed the change in the stage conditions, having more scenery and lighting effects. Now, the revival classical drama was brought about. There was a change in attitude of noblemen from that time. Initially, the plays were seen by the low class people, so it was considered as low class entertainment. But because there was development and there was growth, and the quality of the plays improved, the royal people and even the nobles, they started attending to see these dramas. In total, Shakespeare has almost written like 37 plays, which includes romantic plays, comedy plays, and tragedies. Out of everything, his tragic plays are considered to be the best and notable work. Now, before we begin the play, we'll again go back into the scenario in which the stage in which Shakespeare performed. In the beginning of Elizabethan era, plays were performed on the stages erected in the open air. These open theatre had just a stage, and a portion of the gallery was covered. The theatre was a rectangular platform projecting far into the yard, occupied by lower people. And then, as the plays improved, the stage had a bare room, its walls covered with tapestry. The back of the stages had two wings, each with the door opening on it, and the recess between both the doors formed the inner stage. There was a gallery behind the inner stage on which the actors supposed to speak from the elevated places stood. The nobility sat either in the boxes on the either side of the stage or on the stage itself. As the performance began, a flag was unfurled on the roof of the theatre, and the beginning of the play was signaled by trumpets. At the sound of the third trumpet, a figure clad in long black robe came forward to recite the prologue. The curtains were drawn apart and the play began. In case if they had to change the scenery or the scenes, depiction of various things were used. For example, if they had to show forest, they would use branches of trees, or in case if they wanted to show mountain, the cardboard mountains made out of cardboard were depicted. And when they had to show the action where the place where the action took place, they would use placards written Venice or Belmont. The costumes and articles like fountains, ladders, fans, trees were quite expensive. Sound effects were used with help of cannon, drums, unnatural screams were mostly used. There were hardly any facility for stage lighting. The actors, they wore masks and wigs, and female roles were generally performed by a chocolate-faced guy or a guy who had a smooth waist, and they were young to look at. Women were not allowed to act by law. Even in audience, they had to appear masked. For a tragedy, the stage was draped with black, and for a comedy, with blue hangings. Any imperfection of the stage was made up with the imagination of the audience. It was quite remarkable. It was quite remarkably managed, and it was expressed beautifully. On the other hand, we can even say Shakespeare was one of the best dramatists, and he was successful in presenting the beauty of the play to perfection when it was performed on the stage. Now, before we begin the play, let me just give you a storyline or the story in brief of the play. The opening scenes of the Shakespeare's dramas have always been an exposition. It introduces you to the main character, to the plot, or it gives you a hint on which the story is being done. The play commences in the street of Venice. Shakespeare introduces the central character of the play, Antonio, who is a merchant of power and influence. He has a friend, Bassanio, who confesses to him that he is in love with Portia, a rich heiress of Belmont. And in order to present himself as an eligible bachelor, he wants to woo her, and he wants some money. Unfortunately, Antonio's all the fortunes are tied up with the ship at sea. So he says that he won't be able to help you, but he will help him out by asking somebody from the. He says, ask somebody the money on my account, and I will pay that amount. A test of fortune has been laid for Portia by his father, and she is compelled by the obligation of her father's will. His will commands that Portia will marry a man who will choose among the 3 caskets the right casket in which they have Portia's portrait. There are suitors who come in, but unfortunately they deny to try their luck because there are a few promises to be made, and they move back. And Portia is revealed that none of her suitors have been lucky enough to choose her, as she did not like any one of them. With this, we see a change. There is a bond story. In the bond story, Bassanio finds a Jewish moneylender, Shylock, who is ready to lend him money, but as he hates Antonio, he has a specific bond which he wants Antonio to sign, that in case within 3 months, if his fortunes are not returned, he is liable to take 1 pound of flesh, cut 1 pound of flesh from Antonio's part of body. Despite Bassanio's request not to accept the bond, Antonio is confident, and he says that his ships will return before the due date, and he'll be able to pay back the money. We have Jessica's deceit. Jessica is Shylock's daughter, who's in love with a Christian named Lorenzo, and with his friends, Lorenzo elopes with Jessica, disguising her as a boy. And while they elope, Jessica steals her father's money and jewels. Shylock becomes furious at his daughter's betrayal and loss of money. He's consoled somewhat on hearing that Antonio has lost all his ships, and out of hatred for him, he claims the bond. We see a choice of casket in which Bassanio wins over Portia, and he gets married to Portia as soon as he selects the right casket. In the meantime, while he's getting engaged, he gets a letter from, he has Celerio, who arrives to give him a message that Antonio has lost all his ships in the sea and they are not traceable. And Shylock is bent to take the bond, and before Antonio dies, he wants to meet Bassanio, his dear friend. Next, we have a trial scene in which Portia disguises as a young lawyer and tries to defend Antonio. She plays with the words what is written in the bond and saves Antonio. Once she is able to save Antonio, she uses some justice for Shylock, and she puts him in the as a criminal. And when Shylock is ready to surrender, she wins the case and finally returns back to Belmont, where we have a ring episode and finally a happy ending. We'll discuss all these events in the due course of the play. So we'll start with the next session in the next class. We'll start with the play in the next class. Till then, please stay safe, stay home. There's another request, children. Please go through the storyline, understand what the characters are, and we'll discuss about it as we start with the play. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe.